Okay, that's something about numbers and what you can do. And a couple of final points here. I think that we really ought to work with what we're given and try and understand the older information as well as we can before we start changing it and introducing new things. So, for instance, if you look at books and history, you find that pages were servants. Like the page was maybe lived in the castle and had a better lifestyle, let's say, than a peasant living in the countryside in a shack. But pages were still servants and expected to do the work to obey the orders they were given. And the same way the knight, even though the knight is a warrior, knights were servants of the Lord. There was a lord of the area, and knights may have been paid, they may not, but nevertheless they were there to carry out the orders of the boss. And if they had to go and fight, they had to go and fight, but they were obedient. Okay, so we have the idea of being of service relating to the page and the knight. Okay, whereas the king and the queen, they're in charge and they give orders and they expect to be obeyed. Okay, so it's not the same with the page and the knight. They're supposed to obey. And this is one way of thinking about the roles, the different functions of the court cards. And we can get an idea of how they might act and the kinds of people that they are. So these two obey, and these two are servants. These two are in charge, and these two give the orders. I watched a movie on TV a week ago. It was called Elizabeth, and it was about Elizabeth I of England, and how the thing is, the Tower was everywhere, and you can be educating yourself all the time, no matter what you do and no matter where you are. So I was watching this movie about Elizabeth of England, and she was crowned Queen of England. But even though she was the Queen, the official Queen, and she had supporters and she had allies, she had powerful enemies as well who wanted to remove her from the throne and who wanted to kill her because they wanted their people in positions of authority. And so even though you're the Queen, it doesn't mean that you're established. And even though you're the king, it doesn't mean that you're automatically going to be obeyed. So we might want to look at how much success can you have. With the page and the knight, you have to obey. With the king and the queen, there's a greater chance of success because people are predisposed to believe you or trusting you or obeying you. You know, it's a bit like if your boss calls you in and tells you to do something, you're probably going to do it because that's the boss. And so if you're represented by a king or a queen, we should expect, it's like the default position is success and obedience and cooperation on the part of other people. Whereas with the page and the knight, the default position is being obedient and being cooperative and following the orders that people give you. And all of this can be changed as the card is upside down. It may be that you give too many orders, or you give orders and they're not obeyed, or people hate you rather than love you and are not willing to cooperate with you. Whereas the Page of Wands upside down can be somebody who wants to run before they can walk, who wants to give orders instead of who is willing to take orders for a time until they're maybe promoted or until they're in a different or an older position, a more mature situation. And then they would be able to give orders and have them obeyed. Okay, that's something. I don't know. I think I'm going to post this, even though it was kind of jumbled up, I think. But anyway, I think I made a couple of points anyway. If you have comments or questions, type something in the comments section or send me an email and we'll take it from there. I wanted to make one more point to keep everything together, and so I set up the camera again. And I've been saying that a page and a knight are not really in charge, but at the same time they can be quite successful. And you may find that they get cooperation by association. It's sort of like because they're related to the king and the queen. And so let's say you would help Mick Jagger because you're a fan, but you're also willing to go out of your way for his children because they're his children. You know what I mean? If there's a connection between the page or the knight representing young people and servants and somebody else who's in a position of authority, then they can benefit from that. Okay, so let's say we have the questioner is represented by a page, and let's say it's a page of wands, a page of swords rather, as the final outcome. And so we want to know, is it going to be success or not? And what you do is you look at the rest of the cards in the spread, and if you have, for instance, a couple of good sword cards, if the ace is there somewhere and the six is there, the ace is a beginning in the strength. The six shows movement away from a difficult situation, right? So with a couple of, even though it's a suit of swords, which is generally considered to be difficult, if you get a couple of good sword cards in the spread already, put those together with that, and the page is going to be okay. Just because of the fact that these cards are all in the same spread. Whereas, if earlier on you'd got the three of swords, this heart pierced with three swords in the clouds and the rain, and we've got this 8, for instance, where the person is stuck and blindfolded and tied. This is a very different situation than the ace and the 6, as we can see. So if the page has had to deal with or is connected with the 3 of swords and the 8 of swords, you have to wonder how much success there can be. There's going to be a challenge, there's going to be difficulties, there's going to be a struggle for this page of swords dealing with these two cards than for the same page of swords dealing with the ace and the 6. Okay, it tells a different story, and it's more of a struggle for this individual with these two cards. And that's one of the good things about a Celtic cross. Even though there's a particular meaning for a card in a particular position, like the present, the foundation, what's passing away, and so on, you still have 10 influences, and you can sort of let your imagination go at the end and just see what patterns seem to be there in the cards that have come up. So that was it. One last bit, a kind of PS, just to keep that information together in this section on the court cards.